Hello and welcome to another video of the update of the vollseg-napari trackmate plugin. And in this video, I'm going to show you the new features that I've put in, and some of the features have been removed, which were redundant. For example, there used to be an orange button here, which was showing the track ID on demand, but now that's gone. Because now if you just go to the drop down menu and select on the track that you want to see, it will show you that track without actually having go through two steps. So that's reduction of two steps to one step. So first thing you have to do is open your image and then import, and here you have to specify the paths of your XMLs and the CSV files which come from TrackMate, and you hit the run button. And now when you hit the run button, it's going to now have this analyzing tracks progress bar, which shows you where you are in your track analysis, right? And then you see a new tab, which is your table, has appeared here. This table contains the root cell ID, which is the starting point of all your tracks, and it is doing it for all the tracks. So let's say you in your experiment you have 1,000 tracks. What you would get are 1,000 root cell IDs, which are the starting point of the tracks, the frame that they start from, the XYZ position, and all of this is linked to this root cell ID. Then you have other features which you may be interested in. For example, if you have loaded a mask image, you would get the distance of the cell to the closest point in the mask. Yeah. And you have then also these IDs which I've put in. So the track ID is actually just the trackmate ID. Then there's a generation ID, tracklet ID, and then if I combine these together, I get a unique ID for that particular track, which is how I'm able to import trackmate tracks into Napari using the tracks layer. Then you have other attributes like directional change, speed of your cells, which has been attached to each cell, and then the after ID is the cell that comes after it, and if there's a before ID is none, because in this case this is a root track, but otherwise all of the cells which have been tracked actually have these attributes. Just in the table you only see the root tracks, and then also whether the cell divided or not divided, right? So now if I just click on the table, what I'm going to get is my track. It's going to make this box which you can select, and it will, this is actually coming from the quality. So the quality is the size in pixels of so I cannot actually go to 3D in this case. Sorry about this. It's just a whiz-pi thing on my local laptop, because of which I cannot display this in 3D. Otherwise it would be nice to actually see these tracks in 3D. But once it has been resolved, you couldn't actually just see the tracks in 3D. It's just an error in my local installation. So what I was just trying to do is set the contrast limits of my cells, and then if you don't want to see these boxes and just the tracks, you can just visualize these tracks, and this is the dividing cell, and there you see the two daughter cells. So this was dividing equal to true, and it automatically selects the track model type depending upon the choice that you make in the table. Let's say if you selected this track, it's going to say, okay, this is a non-dividing track, and then you're going to see the track which corresponds to this non-dividing cell. The box out of slice view will show you such kind of a display for this particular cell. It just kind of follows the cell, and this size corresponds to the size of the cell, which is calculated in the trackmate attribute. So it's a trackmate attribute called quality, which I'm here just displaying. And now the good thing about this is that the table is interactive. Yeah, so you see the selection that you have made is highlighted in green, and you have the information of the cell which is the starting point of this track. But now another thing is that you don't just have to actually go through your table. It's a feature to make it more interactive, but you can just as well have selected a dividing track from here, and it will show you the same layers that you get from the table. It will show you these boxes, so I can ask him to display it out of slice, and it will show you like this, just like what you saw before. Or I say I don't want to see it out of slice, In this case, it means that it is not it is only drawing this box where it actually appears in that particular Z slice, right? But it's showing you the lines which are the tracks. And now a nice feature is that you can change the color of your track based upon radius of the pixels. For example, this is the radius in pixel size of your cell, and you can color the track with that particular attribute, or you can color your track with any other attribute like speed, for example, or by default it is track ID, and then you will get this kind of colors of your track. Yeah, and you can also color actually the cells if you have uploaded a segmentation image, which in this case you have not. So for example, here you just have the raw image but not the segmentation image. But if you do have the segmentation image which you can load, you can go and color it with a chosen spot or a track attribute. It's going to do some computations and it will give you a new labeled image which actually contains where the cells are actually containing the color, not just the tracks which are containing the color. So it's another way of visualizing your tracks where you color the cells based upon an attribute rather than color the track lines based upon the attribute. Yeah, so that's so let me just show you this track model type. So if you click on non-dividing cells, you will see the track IDs of non-dividing cells. If you click on the dividing, you will only see the track IDs of the dividing cells. And if you click on both, it will show you all of the track IDs combined together. And the reason for doing it this way is that you want to run your experiment, analyze your experiment, and you want to analyze dividing and non-dividing trajectories separately. For example, it's not been enabled yet, but this would happen soon, where if you select dividing and non-dividing, these statistical plots and the temporal plots are going to change. Currently, they are taking all of the tracks which were in the XML files and it's making these plots. But what I want to do now is that if you select non-dividing or dividing, it will recompute these plots and only include the track model types of for your choosing. So you can just analyze dividing tracks, get the statistical and temporal plots in one sitting, and then do the same for non-dividing tracks. Yeah, and the main update in this particular release is that of the table, where you have this interactivity built in the table where you can just click and you will get this visualization of the track and of so the tracks layer and of the boxes. This is a bit too ugly, this out of slice view, so you can just find the box for this one, for example here. Yeah, and then this box doesn't appear everywhere because it just appears on the Z where actually the centroid of the cell is. So this is the nice visual. Like you have the track points, you have these boxes, and you have the track lines. And you have this interactivity either from the drop-down menu or from your table where you can just visualize these tracks. And now, for example, if I want to see all of my dividing tracks, what I would do is go here and say all, and it's going to then show all of these dividing tracks in this one layer, right? And now I don't want to see, so it's like if I don't want to see the box, I can just toggle it off. And now the color would make sense because now it's like all of the dividing tracks, right? So if I click on my tracks layer and I say color them by generation, so the root will be purple because it's kind of 0, the value. And then the other generations, the daughters, they will be more colored. And then you can see all of these tracks if you want to see them. And all of these properties would be calculated in these different tabs. And the next update will actually update this based upon the separation of the track model type. But in this case, in this particular version, you can visualize your tracks in these different possible ways of the level of interactivity. Yeah. So one thing which is not here right now is if I click something on here, it doesn't highlight anything on the table right now, but that's the next step. You will click something here, say, is this cell in a track? can you highlight that in my track table? Can you make it green? And then that's the next step, building an inverse kind of lookup feature where instead of getting it just from the table, I would be able to just get it from the viewer. And the good point about this is that the table only contains the starting point of the tracks, right? But in your viewer, you can go to any time point and say, I don't know the starting point of the track. I am just clicking on the cell. So you know what track ID this cell belongs to. So show me in your table uh, the particular track which this cell belongs to. So it will show you in green where the cell actually starts from, because it knows the track ID of the cell that you're clicking on. And then that's another layer of interactivity that you would get from this plugin. So it will make your whole track analysis experience more nicer. And this is for the people who are doing tracking in TrackMate, using TrackMate uh, detectors and trackers, and also TrackMate Onit to automatically correct the tracks for the mitotic cells. And then once they have done that, they want to calculate something specific. And for this, I'm making more and more tabs for making analysis targeted to different sets of questions that you may have uh, to answer from your experiments, right? So that's just building up slowly, and I'm just making up these little videos for these incremental steps that I take in making this plugin. And in the end, I will make one final demo video where we would sit together and try to answer a specific question which is biologically motivated, and see how nice or not nice it is if I use this plugin for analysis, and then incorporating your feedback, we can make it more nicer. Yeah, so that's all for today. Enjoy the plugin. Um, if you want to try it with me, or wait for me to finish making it and then you can enjoy it later from the Napari Hub. Thank you for watching.